expectations were, absolutely, positively.
Cliff?
Yeah, I'd just like to know who the three other people are that work with her to get what she does done.
You mean our HR director,
Yes.
professional development director, and who's the third one? The
Technology.
She has
superintendent?
no chance
Technology.
to sleep, honest to goodness. She's, everywhere I go, she's there.
Well, I don't want to hear about that.
No.
She's at every meeting.
Yeah.
She's prepared for every meeting. It just, she has no time to sleep, I'm sure.
It's
I
a
used to-
huge,
I used to joke with people about, having, there's always more time. You always have that time between midnight and 5 a.m., that most people sleep in. You can always do stuff then.
Our contract's already signed, right? Just want to make sure before you make.
Obviously, it's a 24-hour-a-day job.
Yeah. I want to say, I mean, if I had done the evaluation after Saturday, I probably would have changed because I had to move from standing next to her at the baseball game on Saturday because she was out of control as a fan. I mean, no, she was fine. She
What did she do?
she didn't do anything. She's very supportive of her North Reading Hornets.
shouldn't have been standing with Melly, I almost got thrown out of
I know.
the
I mentioned that at the softball game. Karen, any comments?
I just want to share that your leadership of this district is absolutely flawless and amazing. The people who work with you obviously genuinely care about what they do and bring a lot to the table, and you're able to take all of those amazing talents we have in our administrative team, among our teaching staff and our personnel that support our teachers and our paras, and it's just an amazing network of people that are really working hard for our district. It's not easy to come into a district and feel like you can fill that void, and in a way, because there was no void. We've been doing pretty well, and it's hard to sort of step into that. But you've actually taken ownership of this and made it your own, and brought so much more depth to the role of superintendent than most new superintendents have. I mean, I have friends on committees in other districts who are struggling with their searches and struggling to find people who really understand their district and want to create something that is respectful of what has come before, but also takes that next step. And I think you've done that really, really well, and we're very fortunate and blessed to have you in the role. So you're not allowed to leave at any point.
And then Michael, before, I'm not telling tales out of school, but Michael, I think, hit the nail on the head because he was the one a couple times that related it to being a CEO. And what does a CEO have to be? It has to be someone who has depth across a whole wide spectrum of expertise, and also to have the leadership capabilities. So I'm going to add to that. But
Yeah, I mean, I think, Jerry, I kind of disagree with you a little bit because the school district was doing fine in the current situation. You're right. But what Kathleen has done is she is putting together a forward-looking vision for that 21st century.
I agree with that.
And that's a very proactive
agree with
move
that.
on her part. And again, another view of a CEO.
Yeah.
So, and that really is going to take the school system into that next level. I mean, this one thing alone, and I understand the SBC project and all that, but within that whole framework, not only she learned to work with everyone here, put her vision in place, but also remove study halls, honestly.
that exactly.
I mean,
That's-
as basic as it is,
Yes.
she did remove study halls. Now, they're still study halls
Yeah.
there, but they're more focused on improving the student.
Right.
So, I mean, in a very short amount of time. So, that's really about it.
And I'll just
Now, just before you go,
Okay.
I just
I
wanted
just want to warn Kathleen, next year, if it's a contract year, I will be giving you a negative. Completely opposite.
I think Karen brought up a very good point that a
I
big,
did?
you know,
Oh, goodness.
I do think that the faculty we had in place, the administrators we had in place, the staff we had in place, right from the top on down, even though we don't have a lot of administrators, that they bought into the transition. In other words, they weren't fighting it. David was here for 10 and a half years. I'm sure in that time period, people form alliances and everything else. I think from what I understand, everybody stepped in and supported the new superintendent. So I give them a lot of credit. And it was a good point that Karen brought up.
I would
So
just
I think Jerry wants you on the next Survivor, but that's just,
I
that was
just
a hint.
I'd echo everything everybody else said, and I think one other key issue is the ability of the superintendent to adapt. And I look at what's happened with our business manager or our director of finance situation, where Mr. Nelson was retiring. We did a search. We didn't come up with candidates that we thought were suitable for the district. And within a month, we had a plan to move forward that figured out how we're going to move forward and replace Mr. Nelson, which included encouraging Mr. Nelson to stay through December and delay his retirement for 5 months. And I think that ability to adapt, which probably began on day one, because she had to adapt to a new district and a new job and new people and a new school committee and everything else. That, on top of everything else, is, I think, a key element in her success.
Yeah, on that same issue, you know, we could have taken the best of those that we looked at, but we didn't.
Right.
Because we're not going to do second best.
Right, because they didn't fit the district. And
Right. And to me, that was a very defining moment, that we didn't take someone. We are waiting for the right one.
And I think the superintendent had the opportunity to work under a superb school committee.
absolutely,
Absolutely.
the school committee is flawless.
A big,
And
big,
I
big
do-
help, and-
Under its work with,
With-
in collaboration
yes.
with, okay.
So tell us what we missed, Superintendent Willis.
I'd like to start by thanking the committee. I also have friends in other districts and who are doing the tough work that's required of a school superintendent as we look toward the 21st century. And I am blessed. I am blessed to work with a supportive school committee that understands what my role is and what their role is, and we work collaboratively to achieve success on all levels. So I continue to say that it was the best decision I've ever made in my career to make a move to North Reading, even after 30 years in a different district. And I thought I would never leave that district. And I am so glad I did, and I haven't looked back, not for one moment. But I'd also like to say that I think that a successful leader is only successful if they surround themselves with the best possible individuals to do the job and exceed expectations. And again, I think that I am blessed to be working with such a strong administrative team. And they are surrounded by outstanding educators. I think I mentioned in some of my supporting documents that I had an opportunity to spend an awful lot of time in schools this year. And I was witness to the kind of teaching that our students are receiving in all of our schools. And I am so proud of what I see on a daily basis for our students, because at the end of the day, and our educators know this, it really is about what's taking place for our students. All decisions come down to what's best for our students. And I see that play out over and over again in our schools, at our administrative councils, and quite frankly, at these tables every other week when you're making decisions that affect students. I know you talked a little bit about not necessarily making the connection between what you do and improving student achievement, but I have the opportunity of watching that play out daily. And I can tell you that when you support the kinds of initiatives that are recommended to you, and you I want to say, support the budget and try to get the most for our students, it has a significant impact on every single student in this district. And so for that, I am eternally grateful. I'm also grateful to the town. I said this at graduation. The support of education in this town exceeds my expectations. And again, the students continue to amaze us. So thank you. There's always room for improvement, and I will have my goals ready for you based on the feedback you've given me. Thank you for your honest feedback, and I will continue to work to strive to be the best that I can be for the North Reading Public School District. Thank you.
Who knew? Kid from Lowell, right?
A kid from Lowell.
Kid from Lowell. Look at that.
The Lowell did come out on Saturday.
Yes.
But we
that
won't
was
go
fun.
there.
We had a lot of fun, though.
We had a lot of fun.
But I wasn't standing next to you when we won the game. But
Well, you're probably happy
probably-
you weren't.
so again, I want to thank the school committee. As this, I think we provided a copy of this to the transcript, correct?
Yes.
And the other documents are available if anybody is interested in seeing them. But again, this is a great process. I think it's too bad we can't keep this for more than one more year, because I think it works really well. But the state knows better, correct?
Not really.
Well, not what they think they do.
It's the way it is.
Yes.
Well, this is a good framing. It
It is.
primed us for the process. so
Yes.
we're good.
Okay, next, we are on to the policy manual revision, first reading. I loved use of students. That was I love the name of that policy, use of
Use
students.
of students.
We have section K, section K,
L
and
and M.
section L and M, correct? So
Right.
Cliff, you wanna
KLM.
take the lead here, please?
Once a great
That's
Like
right.
an airline?
airline.
It was an airline, yeah.
In reviewing these, we have a fairly clean review. The first policy that we found something to change in was KBF, the use of students, as you mentioned. And the principal changes there are to change the word pupils to students.
Why did we call them pupils?
1950s?
I know.
don't know.
Yeah, I know.
Obviously left from
Students
the
wasn't
past.
invented
Yeah.
then.
It is
Students wasn't-
also inconsistent with everything else that's
Right.
in the manual.
It's called, and plus it's called use of students to inform the public about
And
school
then it talks
programs.
about
And then we talk about pupils.
Right. So
Okay.
we have just changed each opportunity to change pupils to students.
So at this point, I would accept a motion for the first reading of the revised policy KBF, use of students to inform the public about school programs.
So moved.
I'll
Sec-
second it.
Good.
Motion by Karen, second by Cliff. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. So first reading of that. Next?
The next policy that we found something to change in was KGA-R, which are the regulations that go with KGA. And the basic change there was updating the fees for use of facilities. Basically, they were all wrong from the past. They just were inconsistent with what we're doing.
Oh, so these numbers reflect what we're currently charging now? They just, okay.
These are current numbers.
Okay.
Right, it just changed the numbers from what they were when this thing was last reviewed to current.
Those numbers have probably been used for about 6 or 7 years now.
Right, the
So-
new ones, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because this hasn't been changed since 2001.
Yeah.
So that's probably
And
the issue.
basically, that is, the high school auditorium audio and locker rooms were a couple of things that were not obviously in the policy before, but
Right.
we have in the list of things that we charge for, just basically reflecting what we have current. And we changed under the regulations, groups wishing to use a facility or field must file an application instead of saying at the school department's business office.
Right.
We said the superintendent's office.
I have two questions. The first is, should we be setting a fee schedule within a policy? That's more a Jerry question. Historically, is that like permissible in a policy?
That's actually a good question, Karen. I'm not sure. I think we probably did it here because there's a policy for the use of the buildings. So
Okay.
it fit in here specifically, and I think that's why we did it. But you raise a good question. I mean, we've been charging these fees, and the policy says something differently. So I guess if we're gonna
Yeah.
change the fees, we need to change the policy when we do it.
Well, one idea I had was just to strike this entire section and have it refer to a fee schedule of indoor facilities that is maintained as part of
Yeah.
one of our handbooks, and that will be included in every handbook or, for schools. I don't know if that's a good alternative or not, but it would certainly allow us to periodically review the fee structure and not have to change this policy.
That's actually a good point.
Can I just say, if you go back, there is a general policy, just KGA, and that wasn't being changed, and it is general, doing exactly what you're talking
And
about.
you're right, Kathy's right, this is regulations, I
This is
think, as opposed to
KGR.
policy.
This is the regulations.
These are
Oh,
regulations.
I'm sorry.
So I
Okay,
think,
I'm sorry.
I think we're all right
was
with it, but
misreading.
you
Thank
raise a
you.
good point, Karen, but I think
Thank
this,
you.
with this being
All right.
regulations, we're okay.
Never mind. Then that takes care of my second question.
Any other questions or comments?
We also changed a couple of other items as far as the
So that,
correct phone numbers and that kind of thing.
okay.
Um,
One question I have is, Jerry mentioned, these fees have been in place for a number of years.